Hi everybody, sorry about the confusion in the tutorial earlier, but I thought I'd do a recording to finish the demo exercise so that you know exactly what you need to do in order to finish this assignment by December the 18th at 11:59. So where we left off, again, I just want you to choose 3 color swatches and fill them in down here at the bottom. And these are the colors that you're going to use to fill in the rest of the shoe. So in order to now start to fill in the rest of the shoe, you're going to want to grab your magic wand tool. And I've already created a new layer to describe the area that I'm getting ready to color. But in order to select this area of the shoe with the magic wand to fill it in correctly, I have to go back to my working file. So I have to tell the magic wand to say, hey, I want you to pick up the white pixels that are in this area of the shoe, but I have to be on my working file layer to do that. So I'm on my working file. I use the magic wand. I clicked inside the bottom sole area. And now I'm going to grab my paintbrush tool. This area that's in the foreground tells me exactly what color I'm going to paint with. With the sole bottom layer active, I'm going to begin painting the bottom of the sole. And because we have an active selection, and we're saying, hey, Photopea, I'm going to paint inside this area only, is the reason why there are no purple pixels on the outside. So once that's all filled in, I'm going to deselect it, select, deselect. I use key commands a lot. I would encourage all of you to, if you're using an application menu, make a note of the key commands and challenge yourself to use them. I'm going to choose deselect here. And you can see that area of my shoe is filled in. I'm going to create another layer because now I want to color in the upper sole. Choose my new layer icon. Rename the layer by double clicking on it. In order to select that area to begin filling in the color, I have to go and choose my working file again. Choose my magic wand tool. Click inside the area until I can see the little dotted lines around the edges. Again, the magic wand is only picking up all the pixels that look exactly the same until it runs into pixels that aren't. So it's going to stop right at the outline of my Jumpman. I'm going to go back to my upper sole layer. And I don't want to fill it in with the dark purple. I want to fill it in with my teal color. So I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool. And I'm going to click on my teal color. You'll see that my foreground box has changed to the color that I want. My selection is still active here. So now I'm going to go back to my paintbrush tool. And I'm going to start to paint inside. And again, you can go over the Jumpman as many times as you want. Because the inside of that Jumpman is not included in the active selection area, it's not going to color over it because of that black outline. And you're going to continue to do this for all the other sections of the shoe. Of course, my favorite shoe is extremely complicated with all these stripes. But once I color them all, it's going to be beautiful. So I got my blue filled in there. I'm going to, again, under the select menu, tap deselect to get rid of the active selection area. I'm going to now color this portion of the shoe. And I'm also going to include in that portion, this portion. I want them to be the same colors. So I'm going to create a new layer. And I don't know what that part is called, but it's usually leather. So I'm going to I'm going to call this layer the leather upper. And in order to select those areas again, I'm going to choose my magic wand tool, highlight my working file layer. And I'm going to click inside of there. So I've got the leather upper portion selected, but I also want to select this area to fill in with the same color. So I'm going to hold down the shift key and click inside of that area as well. And if I zoom in, you'll see my selection area, little dash line is there, and it's over here. So I've activated 2 selection areas. I'm going to go back to my leather upper layer. I want to paint those areas my magenta color. So I'm going to choose my eyedropper. I'm going to go hover over my pink color. You can see the foreground color has changed. And I'm now going to grab my paintbrush tool, make sure my leather upper layer is selected, and paint. And I can make my brush bigger. And I can also paint over here, my second active selection area. And now that that's done, I can go to select, deselect. And you can see this is coming along nicely, I think. And so now I'm going to start to go in here and do the striping. So I'm going to go back to my working file. I'm going to choose my magic wand tool. I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to move around. And I'm actually going to go in and start selecting my stripes. Again, working file selected, magic wand tool. I'm going to click inside of this space. I'm going to hold down the shift key and click inside of my stripes as I go up the shoe. And you can see as I'm clicking inside the stripes, my active selection areas are being indicated. It's tricky to not lose myself here. In a tiny little area there. I'm going to go up to my top layer and create a new one. I'm going to say stripes on laces. And that's just me telling myself this is the lace area that I'm striping. And I'm actually going to fill those with the dark purple. So I'm going to grab my brush tool and make sure that my stripe layer is selected and purple is my foreground color. I'm going to start to paint. Now deselect. And I don't mind the white in between, but I'm also realizing that I have stripes over here on the other side of my shoe. So I'm going to go back to the working file. I'm going to zoom in. And I think I'm going to, these are my laces, but these are the stripes. So I think I'm going to color in the stripes on an alternate. So I'm going to start up here. Got my working file selected, magic wand selected. And instead of selecting this stripe and coloring it purple for my shoe, I'm actually going to choose alternating stripes. there, and this one, this little area, this area, and that area, this little guy, this little guy, this one, and this one. Tiny area there. This one and this one. And that one. And I'm going to go back to my stripes layer. And I'm going to grab my brush tool. And I'm going to fill it in. And I'm going to zoom out and make sure it looks decent. I'm going to select, deselect. So I got my stripes in there. And now I'm going to fill in these stripes on the back of the shoe. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to say back of shoe stripes. You can name these layers whatever makes the most sense. Go back to my working file. Grab my magic wand tool. I'm going to start at the bottom. And then select alternating stripes. And on my back of shoe stripes, I'm now going to paint because I want the underside of the stripes to be that dark purple. Deselect. I'm going to go back to the working file. Excuse me, I'm going to make a new layer. Back of shoe stripes, teal. Now I'm going to go back to working file. Grab my magic wand tool. Select alternating stripes by holding down the shift key as I click inside the areas I want to grab. Use my eyedropper tool to change my foreground color to the teal color I want to use. Go back to my back of shoe stripes layer, teal, and paint in teal. Deselect. Then I can go in and select other areas like the tongue of the shoe. I'm going to create a new one, rename it. I think I'm actually going to leave it white and probably just paint the outline and stripes. Grab my magic wand tool, make sure I'm on a working file. So I'm grab the images of white. Hold down the shift key. Doesn't look like that one activated. Grab that little space right under that label. Go back to my shoe tongue outline and stripes. Change the color to the purple because that's what color I'm going to make it. Grab my paintbrush so I can fill in the color. And deselect. Good. And for this label on the shoe, I think I want to bring back in my photo. And so I'm actually going to go to the working file. Use the magic wand tool. Choose that area, the area of white pixels to color. And because I want to fill it in with my photo image instead of some other color on my shoe, I'm going to go to the clipping mask layer and I'm going to change my foreground back to black. And I'm actually going to paint this area black. Make sure you're on the clipping mask layer. Make sure your foreground color is set to black. And that way I'm telling Photoshop that I want you to show my photo in this area also. and you'll see it picks it up really nicely. I'm good with that. And I think the last thing I'm going to cover is the back of the shoe. So I'm going to choose working file, grab my wand, select that area, go to the top layer, create a new one. Double click on it to rename it, back of shoe top. And I think I'm going to make it the pink color. So I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool, hover over my pink, change my foreground color, grab my paintbrush, make sure I'm still on my back of shoe top layer, and paint it in. And that is my newly colored shoe, inspired by this photo. All of the colors that I used to color the other spaces were either pink, teal, or purple. If you use this photo and you want to go in and use the yellow, add another box. Go back to my swatches layer, add a box here. Use my eyedropper tool, grab this yellow color, the darker yellow color. Grab my paintbrush, make sure my swatches layer is active. I'm going to paint it with the yellow. Select, deselect. Now if I wanted to go in and maybe color these stripes in between, I'll do it for kicks. Go to the top layer, stripes, yellow. I'm going to zoom in. My magic wand tool is active. I'm going to go down to the working file, magic wand tool. I'm going to start to click, hold the shift key, click, 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 click. Inside the areas that are white, click, 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 holding down the shift key to make multiple selection areas. Go back up to the striped yellow panel, choose my brush tool, and I can go in and paint all of those yellow in one motion. And grab my magic wand tool, go back to my working file, because Miss Ferguson is a bit of a perfectionist. I'm going in here and select these alternating stripes. And I'm going to go back up to the striped yellow layer, choose my brush, and paint them in. Now I can zoom out, and I have my multicolored shoe inspired by my multicolored roses. So I hope this helps you get to the end of the assignment. Once you've colored into your liking, you can go ahead and hit File, save it as a PSD. It's going to download right away. And the reason why you want to save it as a PSD, which is short for Photoshop document, even though this is in Photoshop, is it's going to preserve all of these layers. So if you ever want to, once you're all done, you want to save it as a Photoshop file. And then you're also going to export it as a JPEG file for me. You want to set the quality to 75% is good. And you can't see it all here, which is okay. It's there. You can move it around and see it. Tap Save, and it'll download a JPEG. And I want you to attach to Google Classroom your JPEG file. and then we'll look at it when we come back. All right. Thank you guys for your time. I hope this tutorial was helpful, and I'll see you soon. Can't wait to see what you come up with.